Hello everyone, it's Susanne here from the Project Manager Clinic. And again today we've got a sensational subject for our Ask a Mentor session. It's not specifically a question that was sent to us, but it's something that people don't really talk about enough, I don't think, governance. It's like I said the other day, agile, people get excited. Cross-functional teams, people get excited. There's a lot of things, AI, people get excited about. But if you don't have good governance, everything doesn't hang together. So that's what we're talking about today, how we drive impact through cross-functional teams and what the modern approaches to governance are. And Margaret Santos is here again, our Ask a Mentor expert, and we're very appreciative of the time that Margaret gives us every month. I'm really looking forward to this, Margaret, and to see what's new in the new approaches. So we'll get going. If you don't know who Margaret is and you don't know who I am, then the details will be in the links in the description of the video, which will be uploaded to YouTube. So please subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up if you like what you see here. But Margaret is very experienced senior project and program manager. And for me, I've been around forever doing this stuff in business transformation IT. Now, I'm just going to, because we've got two people on here today, I'm just going to say hello to Margaret first, and then we're going to get a really quick intro from the other participants. Hi, Margaret.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, Suzanne.
This is
I'm very
yeah, it's
excited to talk about
exciting.
this topic because it's
Yep,
so dear to my heart. I love
I know,
governance.
I know.
It's so needed. And you know what? When people start throwing the baby out with the bathwater, that is governance, they
Mm.
suddenly realize, oh, we actually need that and we need it back
Yes,
because
exactly. It's one of the very first things that we have to put in place if we're going to
yes.
recover a project, governance. But people just don't like mentioning the name because it's
Mm,
maybe not as exciting. But like you and
mm,
I, Margaret, we get excited about the RACI because the
mm.
RACI is a sensational project management tool, but people just don't talk about it. But if you really want to get stuff done, RACIs, governance. And stick with us here at the PM Clinic because we'll give you the practicalities of what you actually need. So, Teresa, hello. Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am a project coordinator, or I want to be a project coordinator. I have a lot of experience in tech, and I'm transitioning into project coordination. And for me, I thought I wanted to join today because I also think that governance is very important, just because it provides that transparency that is needed in every project and is
Yep.
able to, improve communication as well.
Perfect. Well, nice to have you here. Now, Jessica, a little bit about you.
Thank you.
Many years in a global company, and did many different projects. Governance is definitely their thing. So adhere to a lot of reports and status, various dashboards, various things. And in the skill that we were in, it was really required. There's a lot of things happening to make things progress.
Yeah.
However, to get across the board, that's definitely very important. And I'm at the stage where I'm trying to establish my own portfolio career, and I'm finding that I need governance over my affairs.
Of course.
Because
You
that's
mean we're in the project when you're actually working in a portfolio?
so I've been in large change projects and large global projects where global all the way US will say, thou shall do this by this date, by then.
Yeah.
And it's part of a larger programs, and there'll be phases of program, multiple programs and so forth. And you complete phase
Yes.
one, you go up to phase two and so forth. So they were those global projects, they were smaller projects, subsets one. So having worked on large one, I can really appreciate the need for governance.
Absolutely. That's why we're here today to talk about it. So, Margaret, what are we talking about? Thanks, Jessica. Thanks so much. Yeah.
I'll start sharing my screen and we can just go through the slide pack deck.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about governance and what's essential for projects at a high level. So can everyone see my screen?
Yep. You don't have it on present mode though.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Sometimes gets tricky if you got multiple monitors. There we go. It's coming.
Is that better?
Yay. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. So that's just Susanne and I, and we, as Susanne mentioned, we normally do this once a month for Ask a Mentor. And if anyone's got any curly questions or any serious questions, any sort of questions at all, you know, send it to pmclinic.com.au and we'll schedule it to basically work out how we're going to answer it.
Yeah. And it's good fun too, Margaret, isn't it?
It is. It's such good fun.
It. Makes us really think.
It does. Okay, so today we're going to talk about why we need the case of cross-functional teams and governance across that. And we're going to talk about some principles, modern governance, some delivery frameworks that work, building the right culture and measuring what matters. So that's the high-level agenda. Okay, so traditional structures. So when we have siloed teams, it very rarely does. If we don't have governance in place, then basically the teams are not talking to each other. So it's important that we understand exactly what each team is needing so that everyone's on the same page and we're all going towards a common goal, the outcomes, the value, the benefit realization. So if we don't have a common understanding of where we're all heading, then it's going to make the case difficult. Or if each business unit is working in silos, then it's very difficult to get the right outcome for at the right time with the right amount of budget. You may need to redo work if you don't include everyone up front to understand the cross-functional teams. So that's why it's very slow decision making if you're working in silos. And, you know, if you're not understanding the whole broad brush umbrella view of all the teams, then you may be context switching and losing a lot of time between each silo because you're operating in silos. And innovation stalls, and there's a lot of wastage as well. So, you know, you waste a lot of time and you waste a lot of effort and you have to redo things that you hadn't thought of before because you didn't consider it up front.
That's a great point, Margaret, actually. Never thought of that, but it is a good point.
No, I'm telling you, I've not done it myself, but I've heard of project managers where they haven't considered compliance. And they've gone ahead and done this project. They've, you know, released this new product and there's something wrong with it because it's not compliant for some reason.
Wow.
And so they have to then rebuild stuff into the product to make sure that the product complies. Now, had it been built up front initially and compliance and legal had been considered, then we wouldn't have this wastage, and they call it tech debt, or a lot of redoing of work because it wasn't considered up front. So just moving on. So has governance changed? I think primarily probably because, you know, there's a lot of agile that's being built into a lot of the projects now. So you've got to consider the agile, you know, cycle and how you govern that because it's actually shorter, sharper. And so you've got to make sure that you're measuring in different ways to probably your typical project, a waterfall project or even hybrid. So yes, I would say yes, but you still need to have the guardrails in place that are very common across all. For example, the RAID register, risks, issues, decisions, and dependencies. I mean, that applies to Agile and to, you know, waterfall, hybrid, any sort of model. So that, you know, those sort of things would still apply. So here we've got some core principles to modern governance. So you've got the decision and approver. So you've got the DACY, you've got the RACY, which are the roles and responsibilities frameworks. Now we have some detailed, I've got a detailed template at the end, which will be for future sessions because it's actually quite detailed in terms of, you know, what's required for each of those frameworks. But primarily they're put in place so that you understand who makes the decision and who approves it, so that it's very clear if someone's saying, well, I'm making a decision and someone else is saying, no, I'm making the decision. You've got to understand who is the right person to make the right decision. And that, and really the RACY and the DACY actually tie in together, because the RACY is about responsibilities, who's accountable. And so understanding that, and then understanding who you need to go to for decisions, and then including the decision in your RAID, because that has the decision that captures the decision register, then it's all interlinked. You know, you can't do one separate to the other. You really need to have both of them. And so because you have those guardrails in place, it really empowers team to move forward and quickly. Everyone understand what each person is doing, who's responsible for what. And if, you know, someone needs to escalate something, who do you escalate it to? You would escalate it to the person that's accountable. So that's pretty clear about the DACY and the RACY.
So I'm just going to add there, Margaret, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this seems like absolute common sense, and you would be listening to this and could think, well, surely everybody does that. Well, no, they don't. They don't. I was on a project many years ago now, and the guy who was really should have been the SME, but not for the information technology, more for the biosecurity type area, he kept trying to make decisions which he should not have been making. And then there was this little, you know, backwards and forwards between me and the, this was a startup and a recovery of some sort. But it happens, you know, and people think that they can go off and do their own thing because they don't understand their role. This particular person had previously started the project. It was starting to end badly, so it had to be recovered. So that was a little bit of a learning experience. I call it a little bit of slap therapy, actually. We had to sort of move him about and get him to understand that it was not his job anymore. He became a risk. So, you know, it does happen.
Yeah. So just moving on to the next area, which is what I mentioned briefly at the beginning of when we just joined, which was about sharing the outcomes, the value, the benefits realization as a whole group cohort. That is, cross-functionally, we embrace it together. We're not going to pass the buck between each business unit and say, business unit A, it's your, you know, downfall as to why this didn't work. It's all shared because we're all working towards a common goal, and that's why we need to ensure that cross-functionality is working together. So joint, hang on. Sorry, just going back. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I can't wait to get to this slide, Margaret.
Yeah. So, sorry, I just skipped. So,
well, Margaret's finding out, you know, when you're talking about people not making the right decisions, there's always times when people don't want to make decisions.
Yeah, but if they're
Yes.
accountable, they're the ones that have to make the decisions. So
That's
And
right.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm saying it
We
works
did
both
another.
ways.
Sorry, it does work both ways. We did another webinar on that one on the YouTube site because it can be quite difficult.
So organizational key results, that's what I was referring to in terms of outcome, and also making sure that those key results are shared and embraced as one, and not, you know, finger pointing to such and such a group to say, well, you're responsible for that. They might have their responsibilities, but the total outcome for the whole project program should be shared across functionally. And so it's important to, you know, discuss as a team cross-functionally basically the status of each and what's stopping one from the other from progressing forward. And so that's key issues, key risks, and making sure that everyone's across the same status and who's going to be relying on who at the next, you know, week, 2 weeks, things like that. So the next status. So, and then basically having transparent reporting is really important, making sure that you're calling out anything that is, you know, a red flag that should be addressed. And that's why, you know, reporting is actually important. Reporting is actually a governance tool, and it actually indicates how we're tracking, what we're doing, what we've done, what we're doing next. And so it's important to provide that reporting accurately. And in terms of agile, burn down charts, what we delivered in the sprint, what are the next sprints to come, and how many sprints left for the end result. So that's why it's important to track that as well separately. Making sure that any constraints, and so constraints could also be included in your dependencies register, so your RAID, and making sure that, you know, if something is waiting on something else, like you're waiting to start a project or start something, but you're dependent on something else, then that should be clear as well in terms of dates, etc. Again, that's cross-functional. If you're a team like an IT team, you're waiting on a decision to be made by the business, they need to approve which way they're going to go, then that's an example of a decision that needs to be made and a dependency. You can't go any further, because if you're going to go one way, you're going to do something different. If you're going to go the other, it's totally different. And so you need to understand which way you're going to go.
Just a question, Margaret, because we talked a little bit about, you know, modern governance and agile and those sorts of things that are creeping in or crept in, I guess. A lot of this stuff, and I know I'm generalizing, doesn't get done in an agile environment. They have all the tools to do it, but the project manager, if there's a project manager over the top, can get pushed out, and some of these things are missed, you know, the dependencies not done. And I think it comes back to that project management speak is not necessarily appreciated and valued by some teams. And I'm speaking here about agile teams. You know, they've got this whiz bang, you know, technique and confluence and all those sorts of things, but it can be missed. And so, do you think that that's created a complexity in governance that we didn't have before? Or do you think it's made it easier?
I think that complexity always existed.
Right.
But Agile has thrown the baby out with the bathwater. What I'm saying there is that now it's not considered, because Agile really primarily was set up for one business unit only. So it's a product for a particular business unit. Now, when you have products that are across multiple business units, so you might have the product team, the sales team, the finance team, the marketing team, the legal team, the compliance team, you need to ensure that all of those requirements in those groups are embraced upfront, right? Because you have wastage. And that's and dependency is a good one where someone's just gone ahead and delivered something and spent money, time, and yeah, it's done in 2 weeks and it's all ready. But hang on, we needed something else to be done first before you went ahead and did that. So that other thing has needed to be in place and it's not in place. You have to redo the 2 weeks. What a waste. Technical debt. What a waste of money, waste of time. Then you've just got to add another 2 weeks at the end of that dependency that you hadn't factored in the first place. So that's why it's important to ensure that dependencies are included, that they're factored in, and everyone's aware, especially if you're doing back-to-back projects and it's all part of a program. And one project is building the foundation or platform, for example, of a new system. So you've got to have that first. It's like building a house. You've got to have the foundations in first before you build the walls and the roof. It's just common sense. Okay, so this is a framework that has got legs, and agile at scale. There's different types of agile at scale. There's safe, less, and Spotify. I think these are actually in our detailed slide somewhere. Sorry, I'm just flicking through. Oh, they're here in the next slide. So I'll flick back to the slide before, but just to explain. So I know that I've worked in the safe type scaled agile framework in the past, and I think pretty much that's the majority of what I've heard. Yeah. So where you have a structured team, like a group, they run autonomously. You have the developers, the BAs or the testers, and the Scrum Master, and so they all kind of run together. They perform ceremonies. So, and it's usually like a couple of weeks where they do daily stand-ups, and so that's pretty much what I've had to do in previous organisations. Then you have the large-scale Scrum. I haven't actually experienced this one before, but this is, as explained here, where you have multiple Scrum teams. So it might be more complex, and it's more, you've got to have multiple Scrum teams working together to deliver the product.
Which, because I've had that.
Okay.
In business transformations, I've had all the IT, and a portion of the IT is a couple of agile groups working on, because they're working under a big portfolio program.
Yeah.
And what I've found is they don't like to be told anything about any governance. They don't like to be told, in my experience, about dependencies across the board. So where I've had to come down really heavily on governance is to make sure that they know basically how to behave in a program environment. And that can be a little bit difficult because they seem to buck a little bit and kick. Don't like it much.
Yeah, so, and that's very interesting because typically if you don't have any governance, it's like trying to herd cats.
It is.
They run
literally
wild and they do anything everywhere all at once, and trying to understand what they've done, where they're at, where they're going, how you report that, because also the sponsor who's paying for this is thinking, what have you guys delivered? You're just delivering stuff that's just gone everywhere, anywhere, all at once. And so we want to report that, make sure that you've got your burn down chart, you know how fast, how quickly you're basically delivering the development, and how many sprints you've got left, what's included in each sprint, how long will it take to finish the whole lot, and what that timeline is going to look like.
And
Now,
also if it lines up with all the deliverables across the whole project.
Yeah.
Because they can get out of alignment.
Yeah.
And even in that example that I talked about, that's a big example, right? But you can have your own internal agile team and an external vendor doing something, also doing agile. Now, if they're not in alignment with you and how you do stuff, and this literally happens, I've experienced this, there's going to be a problem because everything gets out of whack. So I'm just reminding people who are watching this, we're talking at a reasonably high level. This is a very detailed content that Margaret has put together. There will be another session in the subscription site which goes into far more detail on this. It's very worthwhile, but no governance, you're going to have lots of problems. Thanks, Margaret.
That's okay. Yes, exactly. And I totally agree with you. You have to have those guardrails in to be able to understand where you're at. And a lot of boards are actually asking for this. They're asking to say, what's the position on this big transformation program? Is it on track? Are we going to deliver it? And like you, Susanne, I've had instances where technology want to do their thing, they want to develop, and marketing say, no, I don't like that font. That's not in line with the brand guidelines. The color needs to change. It needs to be this color, etc., etc. So all of that, and that's one reason why cross-functional teams need to be in the same discussion at the same time. Now, I haven't been involved in these in the organisations that have these squads, tribes, chapters and guilds, but I know of companies that actually hire for these type of roles, and they're usually financial institutions that I know of that do have this sort of setup. But again, it's as explained here, squads are autonomous and tribes are clusters. So it will probably be multiple squads, similar to your LESS. And you have ceremonies that you choose to decide. You might do it every 2 weeks, or as daily stand, you might do it every day, you might do it every 2 days. But the more regular the cadence, the quicker and faster the delivery of the product is going to be. So, and there it has explained, the detailed of each of those three. Now just going here to OKR, so I'm just flicking back. And so that's, in terms of the business case, you're actually writing, and we did do a talk impromptu about the business case.
Yes, 2 weeks or so ago.
Yeah, so listen to the business case recording. And so from the business case, there has to be an outcome, there has to be a benefit, there has to be something that is being delivered as part of the overall business case. That's the whole point of why we put it together. And so here I've got here that it translates to the objective, the key results and the initiatives, the OKR. And you need to ensure that when you are delivering a product, you are delivering a project, that there are results that are going to, come out of it. So if it is a product base where you're implementing a new product, or if it's rationalization, you are getting rid of old technology, again, you quantify the savings. That is the benefit. That is the outcome. That is what we're delivering. That is, as a group, what we're doing. And so, again, cross-functionally, we need to understand, each team will be involved for one reason or another. One, they might have to be their username might have to be decommissioned as a user. They're no longer allowed to access the software anymore. For example, if we're rationalizing and we're getting rid of old technology, it needs to be uninstalled. It needs to, whatever the technology, there's going to be a process in terms of how we make the saving. So if it's a vendor software, we have to notify the vendor, we have to give them notice with the contract and understand that, hey, we're no longer going to need this technology anymore. Can we archive the data? And that's another thing that is part of decommissioning and rationalisation. So we've just spoken about that.
And we've got about 15 minutes to go, Margaret.
Yeah. So how does governance help culture? So as Susanne has written here, when teams work in isolation, delivery slows because no one knows where to go and who to ask and who's going to make the decision. Everything's going all at once. We just spoke about that. It's like herding cats. Everyone's going everywhere. No one knows where to go or who to ask, what to do. So that's important. So when we build the right culture, we have psychological safety. We understand as a team, you know, who to go to for if there's an issue or a problem. We know who to go to make a decision, who's accountable, who's responsible, who's doing the work. I spoke about collective ownership. So it's not siloed. Everyone has to be in it together to deliver the overall outcome, the overall benefit, the overall value that then is tied up to the business case. Blockers, decisions, again, that can be blockers, issues, decisions. This is all going in the RAID register. That's another tool, and that's governance. You're reporting, you're recording, and you're fixing or giving a solution, mitigating the risk, fixing the issue, making sure that it gets done. Continuous learning, so making sure that any retrospectives that you do in an agile, if you've got lessons learned, and sometimes it's training that's required, you make sure that that gets delivered in the next couple of weeks. Then once that training has been done and people understand, the next 2 weeks or the next sprint, people should understand then, what is one of the learnings that you got that you then know to move forward with. So in a waterfall type project, you have a post-implementation review, and the post-implementation review, I typically have it in 4 sections. So one is people, one is process, one is technology, and one is change. So just at the top of my head, by the way.
We need to do another session on that, Margaret.
Yeah, that's really important because that's the modern version of the post-implementation review and what you do to include in those sections and how you then incorporate that into key learnings. You disseminate it to the project team and you disseminate it to the wider project community. And you may even do like a session where you're actually helping other people learn from your learnings as well.
Now, I just know that Teresa needs to go shortly. Did you have a question before we've only got about 2 slides to go? No?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So governance enables speed. Funny enough, people think that it's red tape, that it's an obstruction. So it's funny that people think that, where in fact it actually enables speed because you know where to go, you know who to ask. It's easy. It kind of runs like a well-oiled machine. You have clarity on decisions, and removes blockers to delivery. Outcome first thinking, this is what I was saying. It's not, someone else's problem. You have to, if it's an outcome related solution, everyone is banding in together to get the outcome that's needed to meet the business case. So having a great culture working together is your multiplier. So having that psychological safety, knowing who's responsible, who's accountable, is important too. And then measure what matters. don't measure something that's not relevant to the project. Leadership shifts from directing to enabling, so it helps everyone to bandy as a group, just to help make decisions together, and then help work out how we're going to deliver something. Especially in agile projects, everyone is working together and deciding together. There's no particular manager. So did you?
Yeah. This is really just about, this is going to be new, as I mentioned to start. There will be detailed sessions on a number of these things, particularly this presentation that Margaret's done, and they will be those things, the DORA metrics, measuring delivery performance, PMO governance, which it could also almost be a session by itself, Margaret. Reporting and performance, right? The DACI and the RAID, better together. Now that's going to be a session that will introduce as a subscription model. Not everything will now be on the YouTube channel. So all that detail for you, Teresa, and Jessica, will be in the description of the video when it's up on YouTube. If you subscribe, for anybody out there in YouTube land and watching this, if you go to the website and subscribe, you will get notified of these things in advance and how much it's going to cost, and you'll get better access to the other programs. So that's pretty much it. Let's hope you're out there and you're enjoying what you're seeing. Thank you, Margaret, so much for that. It was really good. I knew it would be very informative, as it always is. So I've got a couple of questions, but I'm just going to make sure that Jessica and Teresa don't have any questions first. No? No? Okay. Well, Teresa, if you have to drop off, that's fine. But otherwise, we hope to see you again. I was going to... Sorry?
Drop off and say thank you to you too. Thanks for organizing. It was very informative.
No trouble at all. Every month we have these, so just subscribe and you'll see them. That you'll get advance notice. Lovely to meet you.
Thanks. See you. Bye.
Bye.
See you.
Oh, Jessica, I got one more question for Margaret. This, I think, Margaret, is a misunderstanding. And we've sort of talked about this before, where change managers, look, and if you're out there and you're a change manager, understand, I'm not attacking you, I love you, but there seems to often be this idea, and sometimes it's in the sponsor's mind, that the change managers do all this governance stuff. Can I have a comment from you? Yes.
Oh, I've never heard that.
I will not name the place, but it was fairly recent in my, one of my last ones. And remember I told you that the sponsor kept saying, with a lot of agile teams, I wasn't the program manager, fortunately. I would have sorted that out. But he kept saying that the project manager just did the governance. But he didn't actually mean that. What he actually meant was the project manager has no authority over the agile teams. You can imagine the mess that was. He meant that the project manager basically did the administration. That's what he actually meant when it was drilled down. This organisation had a very large change team, and so all of that stuff was delegated to the change team. Yeah.
That's not right, because the project manager is... So it's very interesting, because in Agile, it's very product and related, and whereas in project management, which is what we're talking about, it's very visionary, it's meeting the corporate goals. So it's very much trying to align in terms of leadership. It's not actually becoming a subject matter expert, which you are then becoming when you're in a product role or working in an agile team. That's the difference. So the change manager is not managing the project. The change manager is managing the change.
Yes.
They may report directly to the CEO, especially if it's a reorganizational change.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, job descriptions are going to change, roles are going to change. So fair enough, that might happen. But in a project when there's a technology change or there's a change within the business team, the change manager is responsible for the change. So that might be if it's a new system. I'll give you an example. I worked in an organization where we had Excel spreadsheets that was tracking all of the data from our clients for all of their users. We didn't have an actual system. So technology was responsible for delivering this new system and also ensuring that the data was transferred correctly into the new system. But the business was responsible and the change manager was responsible for ensuring that the business used the system and didn't default to the Excel spreadsheet. That's called adoption, and tracking to see whether they were adopting or not with some metrics. That is pure change management. They're tracking to see whether users are starting to use the system, they're letting go of the Excel, and the data and they're checking the data. It's their responsibility, the business, to make sure that the data has correctly gone into the system. The business or the change manager is also responsible for ensuring that the users have been trained and potentially updating of the training manuals, ensuring that there's training sessions that are delivered to ensure that the business users are using the system and not saying that they are and not doing anything. So it's all about, user adoption, communicating the change, training the user base, totally different.
It's just, and I'm going to finish off here, but it's just literally another example in real time, because this was only fairly recently, the misunderstanding of the roles in a project and the importance of governance, because the governance helps to set all of that straight, gives you the framework, gives you the guardrails, as you're saying, and we use those governance tools as project managers to set up everything and to keep it all moving. So it's still happening, is my message. Confusion still reigns out there in project land. It shouldn't, but it literally is.
And none of what we spoke about today is change management, like what the change manager does.
Exactly.
All those things that I just mentioned at the end just now, which we didn't cover off on the slide pack, is what the change manager is responsible for, not the governance.
No, so if you're out there watching a project manager and you're wondering what on earth you've got yourself into, these are project management tools, and the Project Manager Clinic is all about helping you to use your technique to implement those tools effectively. We pretty much have everything, but for things that we don't have, send us a message. You can actually log your question on the website and we will schedule it in the Ask a Mentor session, as Margaret said. For anybody who is really struggling or wants to change their direction slightly of their career and really look into what they're doing, or if you've got a project that needs optimization, head to the website and we can provide that coaching and actual practical help on how to get through your project. So it's been fantastic yet again, Margaret. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Jessica and Teresa, for having joined initially. It's been great having some feedback and some initial, understanding of what you wanted to get out of the session or what you thought the session was about.
Exactly. Yeah, thanks, Jessica.
I don't have a question. I have an observation. A little bit shocked, actually.
Are you?
I am a little bit shocked. Not in what you said. It's the fact that you had to say it.
Yes.
And you're going like, this is and I'm going, but isn't this given?
Correct.
And I'm
Well, I don't know.
I
Some people, and you know what it is? I think if you haven't been trained in project management or change management, then you don't know what you don't know. And it's almost like
Yep.
you've got to be told by someone that has been trained, because I've done quite a few certifications to be able to explain all of this stuff. And
I think you have to be out there in the trenches too, Margaret, because and it's a particular skill that some really good project managers have. We take the information, we learn, and we work out how to implement that knowledge that we've got to get the positive delivery on our projects. I've worked with people who have got masters in project management, and I've wondered why. How was it from a cornflake packet? They don't know the basics of how to put a schedule together. So sadly, Jessica, yes, we've moved the dial a long way in project management, but we haven't really moved it far enough. And I think there's probably an assumption that anybody can do this stuff. It really takes skill. It really does take skill to do it properly and get real success in your project without killing people along the way, and just like because it can be quite wearing if you've not got these tools in place. Oh, but thank you so much, Margaret. Thank you, Jessica. And again, if you're watching today, please subscribe to the channel. Visit the website. Everything will be in the description when it goes on to YouTube. And from me, have a fantastic project day, everyone. Bye.
bye.